There is a specific investment account available right now that mathematically beats your 401k and your IRA. It is the only place in the entire US tax code where the government promises not to tax your money when you earn it, not to tax it while it grows, and not to tax it when you spend it. If you use this account correctly, it is essentially a loophole for tax-free living in retirement. But most people treat it like a debit card for buying cough syrup. Today, I am going to walk you through the Health Savings Account, or HSA. We are going to look at why financial planners quietly rank this above almost every other retirement vehicle, provided you understand the rules. If you think you know how an HSA works because you have a debit card in your wallet, stay with me. You are likely missing out on the single most efficient compounding machine available to American investors. To understand why the HSA is superior, we have to look at the tax problem we usually face. With a traditional 401k, you get a tax break today. That is great, but you pay taxes later when you withdraw the money. With a Roth IRA, you pay taxes today, but you get tax-free withdrawals later. In both cases, the government takes a cut at one end of the transaction. The HSA is different. It is the only vehicle that offers a triple tax advantage. You get the deduction on the way in, you get tax-free investment growth in the middle, and you get tax-free withdrawals on the way out, provided the money is used for qualified medical expenses. That might sound restrictive, but considering the average couple will spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on healthcare in retirement, it is not actually a restriction. It is just a dedicated bucket for a bill you are going to pay anyway. Before we get into the heavy math, I want to be clear about something. This isn't just about saving a few percentage points. This is about restructuring your financial life to keep 20 to 30% more of your wealth over a lifetime. If you enjoy deep dives into the mechanics of money like this, do me a favor and subscribe to the channel. I spend a lot of time reading IRS publications, so you don't have to, and it helps the channel immensely. Now, let's break down exactly how this triple tax advantage functions in the real world, because there is a massive difference between having an HSA and actually investing in one. Let's start by clearing up the biggest myth that stops people from maxing out this account. A lot of us confuse the HSA with the FSA, or Flexible Spending Account. An FSA is that annoying account where you have to spend the money by December 31st or the company keeps it. That is a use it or lose it system. The HSA is completely different. The S stands for savings, but it really should stand for ownership. This money is yours. It rolls over year after year, forever. If you change jobs, you take it with you. If you retire, it sits there waiting for you. There is no deadline to spend it. This confusion is expensive because it makes people afraid to put too much money in. They think they are gambling on their health for the current year, when really they should be building a war chest for 30 years from now. Let's look at the hard numbers of the triple tax advantage. Benefit number 1 is the deduction. If you contribute $4,000 to an HSA and you are in the 24% tax bracket, you effectively reduce your taxable income by that full amount. That saves you nearly $1,000 in federal taxes right now. Benefit number 2 is the tax-free growth. If you invest that money in the stock market within the HSA and it grows to $10,000 over a decade, you do not pay capital gains tax on that growth. And benefit number 3 is the exit. When you pull that $10,000 out to pay for dental work, contacts, or a surgery, the IRS asks for 0%. Compare that to a 401k. If you pulled $10,000 of profit from a 401k, the IRS would treat it as ordinary income. You would lose 24% of it immediately. In the HSA, you keep every single penny. The psychology here is tricky because to get an HSA, you have to enroll in a high deductible health plan, or HDHP. Human beings hate deductibles. we are wired to prefer a lower deductible because it feels safer. We would rather pay a higher monthly premium, a guaranteed loss, just to avoid the potential pain of a large bill later. But financially, that is often a mistake for healthy people. By choosing the safe, low deductible plan, you disqualify yourself from the HSA entirely. You are trading away the most powerful tax shelter available just to avoid the possibility of a $3,000 bill. I see savvy investors maximize their 401k and then sign up for a PPO plan that blocks them from the HSA, effectively locking themselves out of tax-free growth. It is a comfort tax, and it costs a fortune over a lifetime. So, the first step in your protocol is to check your eligibility during your next open enrollment. For 2025, an eligible plan has a minimum deductible of $1,650 for an individual. It also has a maximum out-of-pocket limit. You cannot have any other health coverage that isn't an HDHP. That means no overlapping coverage from a spouse's plan and no general-purpose FSA. If you are eligible, the government allows you to contribute up to $4,300 as an individual in 2025. That limit goes up slightly in 2026. If you have a family plan, the limit is essentially double that. This is the entry fee for the club. You have to accept the high deductible risk to get the triple tax reward. For most healthy people, the tax savings alone often outweigh the higher deductible risk. Now you might be thinking, okay Tom, I get it. It lowers my income tax. But there is a hidden fourth benefit that almost nobody talks about, and this is where the HSA leaves the 401k in the dust. If you are contributing to your HSA by transferring money from your bank account, you are doing it wrong. You are leaving exactly 7.65% of your money on the table. This is a specific quirk in the payroll tax law that can add up to tens of thousands of dollars over your career, and it is something your HR department probably never explained to you. The common belief is that a tax deduction is just a tax deduction. Whether you contribute to your HSA through your paycheck, or you write a check at the end of the year and claim it on your tax return, the result for your income tax is the same. That is true for federal income tax, but it is false for FICA taxes. FICA is the combination of Social Security and Medicare taxes. We all see that line item on our pay stub. It is a flat 7.65% tax on your wages. When you contribute to a 401k, you avoid income tax, but you still pay FICA tax on that money. The IRS still takes its cut for Social Security. However, HSA contributions made directly through payroll are different. Let's run the math on this because it is significant. Section 125 of the IRS Code allows employer-sponsored cafeteria plans to bypass FICA taxes. If you contribute $4,000 to your HSA via payroll deduction, that money is exempt from the 7.65% FICA tax. That is an immediate savings of roughly $300 that stays in your pocket. If you contributed that same $4,000 by transferring it from your checking account, you would get the income tax refund, but you would never get that FICA tax back. It is gone forever. Over 20 years, maxing out a family HSA, that FICA savings alone is worth over $10,000, not including investment growth. That is a guaranteed, risk-free return that you get just by setting up the contribution correctly at work. Why do people miss this? Because it is easier to just handle it yourself. We like control. We like to see the money hit our checking account and then decide where to send it. Setting up a payroll deduction feels like bureaucracy. You have to log into a different portal, maybe talk to HR. But that desire for control is costing you a nearly 8% instant return. There is no investment in the world that guarantees an 8% return with zero risk. Yet we walk past it every day because we don't want to fill out a payroll form. We have to get over the friction of administrative paperwork. The paperwork is where the alpha is. So the protocol here is simple. Do not fund your HSA with post-tax dollars if you have a payroll option. Go to your benefits portal tomorrow. Set your contribution to the maximum you can afford, divided by the number of pay periods remaining in the year. Let the company take the money before it ever hits your bank account. If your employer puts money in for you, that counts toward the limit, so do the math carefully. But capture that FICA spread. It is free money. If your employer doesn't offer payroll deduction for HSA, then you have to do the manual transfer. You still get the income tax break, but you miss the FICA bonus. It's still worth it, but the payroll route is the gold standard. Now that we have the mechanics down, we have to talk about where this fits in your actual life. Conventional wisdom says you should get your 401k match and then put everything else into the 401k. I am going to argue that conventional wisdom is mathematically wrong for most people. Once you get that employer match, every extra dollar you put into a 401k is actually suboptimal compared to an HSA. I'm going to show you a comparison that might make you want to pause your 401k contributions significantly until your HSA is full. Let's look at the standard priority ladder most financial planners give. Step 1 is always the 401k match. If your employer matches 50% of your contribution, that is an instant 50% return. Nothing beats that. Do not skip the match. But step 2 is where the debate happens. Most people just keep filling the 401k bucket because it's easy. It's one account. It's simple. But the HSA deserves to be step 2 before you add unmatched dollars to your 401k. The reason is the exit tax. Remember, a traditional 401k forces you to pay ordinary income tax on every dollar you withdraw in retirement. If tax rates go up in the future, your 401k becomes less valuable. The HSA, when used for medical expenses, is immune to future tax rate hikes. Here is the math. Imagine you have $1,000 of pre-tax income. If you put it in a 401k, it grows to $2,000. When you withdraw it to pay a medical bill in retirement, you pay your tax rate. Let's assume 24%. You are left with $1,520 to pay the bill. Now take the HSA route. You put in $1,000. It grows to $2,000. You withdraw it for the same medical bill. You pay zero tax. You have the full $2,000. That is nearly $500 more purchasing power from the exact same starting capital. You avoided the tax drag completely. Since we know we will have medical bills, funding them with a 401k is voluntarily choosing to pay a tax you don't have to pay. Some people argue, but Tom, what if I don't have medical expenses? I have looked at the data on aging. You will have medical expenses. Fidelity estimates a retired couple, age 65 today, will need roughly $315,000 for healthcare costs in retirement. That does not include long-term care. That is just premiums, co-pays, and prescriptions. That is a massive liability on your balance sheet. The HSA is the only liability-matched asset that covers this cost tax-free. Using a 401k to pay for healthcare is inefficient. It is like using a credit card that charges you a 25% transaction fee every time you swipe it. The HSA is the cash discount. So here is the optimized priority ladder. First, contribute to your 401k only up to the employer match. Capture the free money. Second, shift entirely to the HSA and max it out. Hit that family limit or individual limit. Third, go back to your 401k or IRA. This sequence ensures that your first dollars are getting the match, and your next dollars are getting the triple tax treatment. Only after those two buckets are full should you accept the double tax benefit of a standard retirement account. It requires a bit more logistical work to to split your direct deposits, but the tax efficiency is undeniable. We have covered the tax structure and the priority list, but here is the secret sauce. This is the strategy that separates the casual saver from the wealth optimizer. If you are using your HSA debit card to pay for your doctor visits today, you are making a mistake. You are effectively killing your compound interest in the cradle. There is a loophole in the IRS rules regarding reimbursement timing that allows us to turn the HSA into a massive investment trust, but it requires you to pay for your medical bills twice, once with cash and once with patience. Here is the rule. Try not to spend a single dime from your HSA while you are working. Treat it purely as an investment account. When you go to the doctor and owe $200, pay it with your normal post-tax checking account. Leave the $200 inside the HSA. Why? Because inside the HSA, that $200 is invested in the S&P 500, or a total market index fund. It is growing tax-free. If you pull it out today, you stop the growth. But here is the kicker. The IRS does not have a time limit on reimbursements. You can incur a medical expense in 2025, save the receipt, and reimburse yourself from the HSA in 2045. As long as you kept the receipt, the withdrawal is tax-free. Let's assume you have a $1,000 medical bill today. If you pay it from the HSA, that $1,000 is gone. If you pay it out of pocket and let the $1,000 stay invested in the HSA for 20 years at a 7% return, that money becomes nearly $4,000. In 20 years, you can still withdraw the original $1,000 tax-free to reimburse yourself for that old bill. You put that $1,000 in your pocket tax-free. But you still have $3,000 of growth left in the account. You effectively created $3,000 of wealth just by delaying the reimbursement. You can treat your stack of old medical receipts as a tax-free emergency fund that you can tap into anytime you want, while the underlying capital keeps compounding. The problem with this strategy is emotional. It hurts to pay a $500 deductible out of your checking account when you know you have $5,000 sitting in your HSA. It feels like you are cash poor even though you are asset rich. It requires discipline to leave the HSA money alone. You have to view the HSA not as a spending account, but as a retirement account. You wouldn't raid your 401k to pay for a flu shot. You shouldn't raid your invested HSA either. This strategy only works if you have the cash flow to cover your medical costs out of pocket. If you are drowning in medical debt, obviously use the HSA. But if you can afford to pay cash, you are buying yourself future tax-free growth. The execution of this strategy used to be a nightmare because it involved literal shoeboxes of fading thermal receipts. Do not rely on paper. Thermal receipts fade in a year or two. You need a digital system. Most HSA providers now have a Vault feature where you can upload a PDF or photo of the receipt and tag it as unreimbursed. Or just use a Google Drive folder. Label the file with the year and the amount. Keep a spreadsheet. This is your ticket to tax-free withdrawals in the future. If you get audited, you need to prove the expense happened. No receipt, no tax-free withdrawal. Treat your medical receipts like currency, because that is exactly what they are. There is one final fear we need to address. It's the fear of oversaving. People ask, Tom, what if I am incredibly healthy? What if I act like a biohacker, eat kale every day, and never go to the doctor? Isn't all this money trapped? This is the best part. The HSA has a built-in escape hatch at age 65 that effectively turns it into a traditional IRA, eliminating the risk of trapped money entirely. The fear is that if you use HSA money for non-medical things, you get hit with a massive 20% penalty plus taxes. That is true if you are under 65. But the day you turn 65, the rules change. The 20% penalty for non-medical withdrawals disappears. Gone. You can withdraw money from your HSA for a cruise, a car, or groceries, and you will only pay ordinary income tax on it. Does that sound familiar? It should. That is exactly how a traditional IRA or 401k works. At age 65, the HSA becomes a traditional retirement account for non-medical spending, but remains a tax-free account for medical spending. Think about that logic. In the worst-case scenario, you are perfectly healthy. The HSA performs exactly as well as a 401k. You pay tax on withdrawal. There is no downside. But in the likely scenario, you have medical costs. It performs infinitely better because it is tax-free. It is a super IRA. It has the floor of a traditional retirement account and the ceiling of a tax-free windfall. This is why there is almost no logical reason to prioritize unmatched 401k dollars over HSA dollars. The HSA covers all the bases that the 401k covers, plus one massive base that the 401k misses completely. So let's bring this all together. The health savings account is not just a way to pay for contacts. It is a triple tax-advantaged wealth compounder. It allows you to deduct contributions, bypass FICA taxes if done through payroll, grow your investments tax-free, and withdraw tax-free for healthcare. If you don't use it for healthcare, it turns into a standard retirement account at age 65. It is the Swiss Army knife of the tax code. By maxing this out, investing the balance in low-cost index funds, and paying your current medical bills out of pocket, you are building a dedicated, tax-free security blanket for your future self. Here is your homework. Check your health plan. If you have an HDHP, log into your HSA provider. Check two things. 1. Are you contributing the max? And 2. Is the money invested? If it is sitting in cash earning 0.1% interest, you are losing money to inflation every day. Move it to the investment side of the account. Pick a broad market index fund. Let it work. If you found this breakdown helpful, let me know in the comments if you plan to use the Shoebox strategy or if you prefer to just spend the money as you go. I'm curious to see the split. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.